Hello and welcome to this channel. In today's video I wanted to talk about one of the core concepts that this whole channel is built around, but I've never really talked about this itself, and that is free software. And I know that a lot of the people who watch these videos and watch the Linux tutorials, they have some good grasp on what free software means, but there are still a lot of people out there who are a little confused. What do we mean when we talk about free software? And well, the source of this confusion is nothing else but the English language that we use when we talk about technology, when we communicate internationally. We use English, and in English the word free has just way too many meanings, way too many definitions. And in most of the people's heads, software is just a product. So software is something akin to like any other thing that you can purchase. So when you talk about free software, they kind of understand it in the same way than when someone says a free meal or a free beer. It means for them that it costs nothing, it's gratuitous. So when you go to a restaurant and they offer you free water, then generally food stuff in a restaurant costs money, and here the water is for free. So you understand that you don't have to pay for the water. But when we're talking about free software as a concept, this is not how we are thinking about it. So here we are more akin to when we talk about free press. So the free press, this concept of free press doesn't mean that the newspaper articles are available for you for free. So it is like the example would be that like a dictatorial government can censor a newspaper very heavily, and that newspaper can have like a very strong political influence on it and can publish its articles for free, so free of charge. But we wouldn't call that free press just because of that. Because in case of the press, we understand that the dichotomy is not about paying for something or getting it for free, but the dichotomy is about having freedom and not having freedom to do certain things. And so for most people, like, the software is delineated, like there is this expensive like enterprise software or expensive like whatever creative software that we can use, and there is this other kind of software that we can use without paying for it. And when we are talking about the free software concept, then we draw the line in kind of more like on the licensing part. Like some of the software is licensed giving the user freedoms, and some of the software is licensed not giving the user some freedoms. And so these two kind of delineation is paid and free, and restricted and free can be expressed. So we have a word for actually software that is free, as in free of charge, and that word is freeware. And I've even met people who just when I talked about free software, they just automatically went to say freeware every time, because this is kind of the concept for not paying for software. And a lot of people don't know about the free software as in freedom, even though Wikipedia will give you that it is, not the same things. And so what is the real difference here when we talk about free software? So you can see like freeware can be proprietary, and well, proprietary is something which is kind of licensed in a way that you are not getting a software, so you don't own the software, you are licensing the software under some restrictive terms. So what is the free software when it comes to freedom? And so the Free Software Foundation basically describes these 4 essential freedoms that will govern whether the software that you are using is free software or not, based on whether it respects these 4 freedoms of the user. And the first one, the freedom 0, is that you have the freedom to run the program as you wish for any purpose. And so a lot of proprietary software will of course have some restrictions on what you can use it for. Maybe you get, like, for example, one of my favorite freeware programs that I used a lot before I got more free software conscious is the IrfanView program. You can only download it for Windows, so once I switched to Linux I had to forget it anyways. But basically IrfanView is a proprietary software, so if you download it from their homepage, they restrict you to use it for non-commercial use or maybe educational or charity and humanitarian use. But they restrict you based on what kind of license you get. And a lot of other software will tell you, like, if you have like a certain pricing for, like, if you are a student, and have a different pricing if you are using it in an enterprise. So this is like kind of the freedom zero, is that you run the program whenever, wherever, for whatever reason you wish to do so. And freedom number one is that you have the right to study how the program works and change it if you don't like it, or add new features and stuff like that. So this is basically what requires you to have access to the source code. And so a lot of the proprietary software, even though, you know, they are free to use, so it's a freeware, not free software, you probably will have like a license agreement that will tell you that you are not allowed to reverse engineer the code, so you are not allowed to study how it works. But if you go to, like, so this Nomex, this is a free software alternative to IrfanView, kind of. This is also an image viewer program. If you are on the download page, you will find that they will directly link you to the source code. So you can just go on their GitHub repository and you will find their source code there, and they will also have the license there, and their license is the GNU General Public License, which is a license made by the Free Software Foundation. So you can be sure that this program will respect your freedoms. And so just by looking at the source code, we can see that this respects your freedom one. And freedom number two is the freedom to redistribute copies, so you can help others. So of course, a lot of software that you pay for will forbid you to do that. So if you buy a software license, there will be like enterprise software that will, even if you buy it as a company, it will still restrict you how many computers of this company you can put it on. So you have no ownership of the software. The proprietor will just, you know, can say that, okay, for this amount of money you are only allowed to put it on 10 computers. You don't even have the freedom to redistribute on computers that are in your possession, even if you have the license. For free software, you can even give this software out for anyone, and even you can charge for it. So maybe you want to distribute some free software on like a USB drive, and you can sell those USB drives for money, for profit, and so you have the freedom to do that. But you also have the freedom to just give it out for free, and you can help others with that. And freedom number three is that you can distribute the copies of your modified version to others. So basically, you don't just have the right to study how it works and modify it as you wish, but you can redistribute these modified versions. And this way you can give a chance for the whole community to benefit from these changes. And so how, under what terms you can redistribute your modified copies, that will depend on what kind of license you got the original version with. So the Free Software Foundation's license, the GNU GPL, the General Public License, will actually tell you that if you acquired the software under the GNU GPL, then any kind of modified version that you plan to publish, you have to publish with the GNU GPL license. There are some other licenses that let you to publish the modified version under a new license, under even proprietary license. So there are like the I think the kind of the BSD style licenses will let you to have all these freedoms when you get the software, but when you modify it and you give it out, you can deny these freedoms from the users who will use your modified version. So after reading all these freedoms, someone could still have the question that, okay, but what does the freedom to study how the program works mean for me personally if I know nothing about programming and I have no chance of changing it in any meaningful way? So what does it mean for me that the developers granted the users this freedom? And well, of course, maybe it's not something that you personally benefit from directly, but just the fact that other people can also do that. So basically, this freedom applies to every user, and that means that while in the case of a proprietary software, the only people whose eyes are on the source code are the developers, and while they can sell their software licenses and make a lot of money on it, how will they use that money? There is no guarantee that they will actually use that money to actually develop this software in a way that is good for you. It's more likely that they will develop that software in a way that will help them maximize their earnings through selling newer licenses. While in the free software case, because everyone can keep their eyes on the source code, that means that things that would offend your privacy and would compromise your security will be found probably by people outside the developers. So even if the developers didn't think that some like a privacy or a security concern is important, someone can take a look and figure out how to solve those issues, while this is not possible with proprietary software. Also, the collaboration of people, of the users who can take a look at the source code versus, in a proprietary case, only the developers looking at the source code, will mean that this collaboration of everyone will actually incentivize increasing the efficiency of the software, because the people who are developing this software are the same people who are using it in like a broad sense, based on how the users can contribute to the development. So the quality will be more focused on actually the software doing what the user wanted to do, instead of focusing on how the developer can maximize their profits on it. Also, there are some economic benefits for like the poor communities or the lower income communities, based on low cost or no cost of free and open source software. And just because it is possible to anyone to contribute to the code, these people who might live in like a poor country, they won't depend on like these huge global corporations for their computing needs. The local community, the local software developers can pick up these free software projects and maybe even earn some profit that will stay in their specific community, and the profit of the software development won't just be sucked up by some mega corporation thousands of miles away from them. And so, of course, based on the fact that it is much more difficult to earn a lot of money by developing free software where the source code is available for everyone, that can have some drawbacks. Because of the less money, there might have some slower development, or they cannot really pay for like a hotline for users, for user support, or might have some compatibility issues based on the lack of availability, so they cannot just purchase a lot of different computers and test that each hardware works. It is more dependent on how the community responds. So maybe someone has a hardware which is not compatible with the software, but maybe that person can figure out a way how to make it work, and then can submit their change, and this can fix the issue. So basically, it's more like, I think, based on user base. So maybe a proprietary software company can make a lot of money on a lower user base if the specific program the license can be sold on a high enough price. So maybe in a proprietary case, like a smaller user base can be also supported better, but in a free software case, it's usually the bigger the user base, the better the support gets, just based on the number of people looking at the code, and the support is usually more community support and not like a central call center type of support. But I don't really want to go into like more details on the practical side, because it can be very dependent on like which specific software project we are talking about. So there are some free software projects that actually have very high income from very like big professional donations, and like they offer membership programs for high price that like businesses pay for to get support for their free software programs. And there are also proprietary software that can barely make any money on selling licenses because maybe, you know, they are in a very saturated market. So it's a very, very specific thing. But if you are interested in more specific advantages and disadvantages of free software, then you can just leave a comment down below so I know that there is some interest in the topic, and then I will produce more videos on that. Or if you have like any type of questions or comments, you can also share them down below. I try to answer the questions meaningfully if I can. And give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and more importantly, share it. Share this video with everyone who is not free software conscious but would profit from getting to know free software better. And if you are interested in more upcoming topics based on free software or Linux and tutorials about free software projects, then subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!